We've talked a lot about collaboration sort of through the, that's been a topic that's been discussed, so I'm not really going to focus too much on collaboration now, but I very much want to give Aurelia a chance just to touch a little bit on the legal side of when you're starting your business. So yeah, it touches very nicely on sort of what Zach started off by saying about when you landed your 300-page book that you had to go through about how to go for your rounds of investment. But Aurelia, would you be able to just give some sort of key points and some context around the challenges that businesses have, as well, not really knowing where to start on the legal side?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Zach made the point perfectly when he said right from the beginning you had to address the legal issues, and I think that's one of the ways in which you can ensure that you are one of the few successful companies, by addressing those legal matters as soon as possible, and it can really not be too soon. The three key areas which we would suggest you look at are, if you're co-founding your company with someone, that you have a solid founders agreement, shareholders agreement in place. That will set out the roles of each of the founders, what investment they're going to make, how that's going to be divvied up, and what happens if one of them exits. What happens if that relationship breaks up? Does that mean the company's going to fall foul? The second thing is the IP aspect. Lots of companies now have good IP which they exploit, be it with software development or other areas. And it's about utilising the maybe trademarking the name, or if it's a novel, you can patent code now, for instance, and it's about utilising those ways in which to protect IP, because once you have potential investment coming in, those investors will want to see that that company owns the IP. It's no good it being with a random contractor or one of the founders. You need an IP assignment to have that in the company, so it's all there ready to go. The next thing is terms and conditions. Business is all about transactions, be it transactions with customers or your suppliers. And let's be honest, no one really reads terms and conditions, but when something goes wrong, they need to be there, because that will ensure that if anything were to happen, you would know how it's dealt with. It won't cause thousands and thousands of pounds of getting lawyers in to resolve an awful dispute. And once those three things have been addressed, looked at, we can help you, and costs don't have to be too onerous. We all take a commercial approach and ensure you have something in place to get you through the first 12 months or the first 2 years. And also we can help as lawyers and accountants, not only our expert advice, but also we have good networks. We have networks of investors and other professional advisors, and we can introduce you to existing clients or other types of people. So do utilise us for that support network as well as the expert advice.
And what do you see as, when you're working with startup businesses, what do you see, are there any kind of key themes that you're seeing around lack of knowledge or lack of experience that are really key things that potentially you or the legal profession that are here today, solicitors, could help startup businesses with in maybe a different way?
Yeah, I think especially now there is lots of companies, as I was saying, focusing around IP and knowing what is automatically protected and what needs actually formal protection, and so there's a number of ways which we can help on that front. And I think legislation's always changing, especially around use of data, customer data. Lots of companies now build up customer data and they think that's something which they can maybe sell or gain investment from. But if it's breached EU regulations on privacy laws, and it's a minefield when it comes to those things. So, but we're always happy to just give advice and share experience early on. So do pick up the phone, I think, to all professional advisors.
Yeah. Do you think there is maybe some startup businesses are a little bit scared of the legal,
not scary enough.
Also, it's the money,
and they're not aware of the costs that are involved.
And I think we would all agree in saying that we're all from large companies and therefore have the structure in order to invest time in early stage businesses, and also it's an enjoyable part of our job, so we like to do it. We like to do the hand-holding side of it. So do utilise it. I mean, I've given lots of ad hoc advice to the Chiclets here because they're exciting companies, and hopefully they will be the ones that succeed, and they are very loyal clients after that.
Yeah,
so,
they will be. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much for that, Aurelia. Yeah.
We won't go into the technical detail, but actually it's a really interesting bit. When I'm looking at startup companies, I just have one thing: is do you know your cash? It's as simple as that. That is the fundamental. And yes, they know their cash now, but they have no idea what's happening in 6 or 12 months, and they don't forecast it out. You can put assumptions, forget funding and everything else at first. Just know what your cash position is. It is a really simple thing to do, but it is the absolute number one priority. We work, and as growing companies as well, is I see a lot of profitable companies go out of business, and it's because they can't fund their expansion, and they're not concentrating. They're saying, okay, we're making money, but it's profit they're looking at. They're not considering the cash. I just go back to that every single case. Do you know your cash? Do you know your cash for the next 6 months, 12 months? Really simple, but it's what everyone needs to do.
Yeah.
Can I just come back on the legal point? I mean, you're very helpfully speaking sort of plain English today, but I think part of the challenge for a lot of startups, and indeed, steady state businesses, is some of the the terminology around, for example, shareholders agreements and indeed commercial subcontracts that you might set up. So a bit of a mea culpa here in terms of my last international business. I was very proud of myself back in 2009 to win this this sort of tender in education with the Saudi government, and flown out first class by the Saudi government to go and advise the Ministry of Labour there. And as we were agreeing the contract, I realised that I would need to subcontract to other consultants to come out and do this work. Now, I had no idea what a restrictive covenant was that you could put inside of a contract. But just to cut a very long story short, essentially one of the individuals that I took out as a consultant partner working for my business, that I'd won that work, ended up, and I won't mention it, but it wasn't KPMG, ended up jumping ship for a major global consulting firm that in turn went on to win an even bigger multi-million-dollar contract than I had. And I had no idea that I could have legally intervened and stepped in with that person and said, look, I've brought you out here, I've won the work, or my company has, you've got some obligations to my business. And I just wonder, how many times does that happen to, frankly, entrepreneurs a bit green behind the ears who don't realise that with the right legal support, with the right agreements in place, they could have actually prevented quite a significant loss of money.
Income, yeah.
Has that happened to you at all, Mel? In your
That's where you have to fess up how much money you've lost on those deals.
I did sort out my IP, but only because my husband did it for me when he was between jobs. He said, you really need to sort this out. I'll do it for you. But yeah, I mean, I need to speak to you. No, because I'll tell you what it is. I think by nature of being an entrepreneur, you wing stuff and you just think, I'll just deal with that when I need to, and you think I'll spend money on that when I've got the money, and then you just hope that someone's not going to sue you or shaft you or whatever it is, and then you go, I wish I'd spent a bit of money on that legal advice. But I think you're just terrified that they're going to say, yeah, I can help you, that'll be £10,000.
Yeah.
For something I don't even understand.
Yeah, there is that context.
So, yeah.
Sorry, Gary, did you want to say something?
I'm just nodding.
Yeah.
We're all worried now.
So sorry, this is not a slate the legal profession. I know we've got a few solicitors in the audience today, and I know a lot of you have been very helpful. Thank you very much in mentoring some of our businesses in Entrepreneurial Spark, and we on the accounting side as well. We've got a lot of help from KPMG and also from some of the smaller accounting firms. I know you're all very keen to help our entrepreneurs in whatever way you can, so we really do appreciate that. Thank you. So I'd like to bring things to a close now, but also want to open up the floor to any questions. We've probably got maybe about 10 minutes to cover off any questions. Does anyone have any burning questions at this moment in time? No? Oh,
Yeah, we've got
one question.
It's sort of like less of a question, more of a throw it out there for everybody to see. I'm interested in what you were saying about the education of young people and the way in which you would really you want to inspire them to be entrepreneurial. I'd be interested to kind of take it another step and ask them to be socially entrepreneurial. If that's I've kind of made up a new phrase there, I think. But I there's a way here to delve even more into the social impact. You mentioned social impact quite a lot. Really build socially as part of it, embedded within their enterprises. I mean, anybody else thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, we want our young people. I've got 3 children of my own at council maintained schools in the city under the age of 12, and we want our children to create value, social value, economic value. We want them, as citizens, as active citizens, to instill those kind of values. But I see it with my own, my middle daughter that just started school. She's very creative. We call her the artist in the house, and she loves that label. But I worry that our schools, the way they're set up, they almost sort of thrash the creativity out of our kids, and that's a big challenge. But as I say, I'm very careful not to sort of, in a sense, blame the teaching profession for that, because I think as the point's been made, they're part of a system at the end of the day. And I think as parents, if we're not happy with the education system in this country, then we need to seek to change the system rather than criticise the people who are in it. But that is a big challenge. But social enterprise, I think, over recent years has seen a huge growth in its own right, and it says something also. It speaks to a generation of the so-called millennials that are coming up, where their values are, frankly, arguably a lot more ethical than the values of the Generation X, the people like myself born in the 1970s. We're in a sort of transition period. So that's one of the positive things about what's happening in our education system today. I think young people are generally more ethical or considerate of the impact that business, if it goes wrong, i.e. bad business, can have on their community and on their economy, and I think we should celebrate that.
I personally feel like every organisation and business could be a social enterprise if that was the case. And I think the world, a lot of the problems. It sounds very blue sky and sort of heartfelt, but I truly do believe that every enterprise could be a social enterprise.
Sorry, Gayle.
Can I just say, I think there's a bit of a misconception between a social business and a social enterprise, and what social actually means. Making a social. Mel from Beer Biology, her business has social impact, but she's not a social enterprise. She's a profit-making business, and she's delivering social impact through the turnover that she's bringing back into the economy, but the ethos of her business has a social impact as well. So I think we need to have a greater understanding. I totally agree with your point that every business should have a social focus in some way, shape or form, i.e. we're going to do something good for our generation or the world or the economy that we live in, but we don't have to be social enterprises in order to do that. I think that's an important distinction.
It's a social economy.
Yeah.
But I think Tom's point was quite interesting is, with the people coming through, they want a lot more than money. It's not that. So therefore, as a business like at KPMG, we actually now take a lot of school leavers, and the local office, it's half school leavers, half grads. And the school leavers, it's basically they've got a different mindset of working because they haven't had it thrashed out of them as much, still a bit. But the whole point is we need to engage them early. We've got to give them authority to bring up, have their own discussions, input, and I know a few of us have mentioned this, the power they bring, if you give them the license to do it, is phenomenal. So I don't want to say it will naturally occur, but we are very aware that these things are happening, and it's happening for the good.
And I think just touching on the female side of things, twice as many women run social enterprises. The stat is double for social enterprises, so I think it's a really interesting avenue.
Thank you for that question. It was very interesting. Opened up a lot more debate, so thank you. Does anyone else have any questions? You just all want to get to the food, don't you? So I'd like to say thank you very much all for coming. I hope you have found today very useful. As I said, from my perspective, I would very much like for us to hold another one of these roundtables. I'm not sure what everyone around the table feels, but I think there's a lot more discussion that we can certainly be having. So I'll probably look to do that after the summer, maybe the last quarter of the year. We'll hold another one. So as I said, there is, for those of you who can stay behind, all the panellists will stay behind, apart from Gayle. Sorry, she needs to get a flight to Scotland. But we will all be available for any questions that anyone might have. And please go out and enjoy. The food is care of one of our businesses in the hatchery called Iberica Delights. There's fantastic organic Spanish meats, cheeses and olives that have been laid on outside. So please do go and help yourselves and go and stand out on the roof terrace and enjoy the sun. And thank you very much for coming.